All right, guys, today we've got our mini preview of the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to check everything out for them as well as make our predictions on their over-under for their season win total. It is episode 9 here. This is the 9th team we're doing. We're doing all 32 teams in the NFL, and hopefully we'll have some fun along the way. But Cowboys, over-under 9.5, over at minus 154, a bit of juice there, and then under 9.5 at plus 124 at the time of looking, and we're going to go over at minus 154. And let's jump into it here with the coaching to start. Mike McCarthy stays the head coach. Brian Schottenheimer comes in to help with the offense. Not exactly what I love, but Mike McCarthy's the way the world views him at the moment is probably a little bit of an overreaction. There's a world where Kellen Moore isn't great either, and we'll talk about that with the Chargers, but I don't think the drop-off is as crazy as a lot of you think. And then defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, he's just an excellent defensive coordinator. He may have a chance to be a head coach again one day, but if he doesn't and he stays a DC, it's a really, really good DC. So an excellent player or an excellent coach there. But let's jump into the roster here. We'll start with Dak, who led the NFL in interceptions last year. A bit unlucky in just numbers wise. His turnover worthy plays wasn't that high. Getting a little bit unlucky there, but he'll have to clean them up. They had some bad ones toward the end of the season, of course. I don't expect it to be as crazy as it was last year. I expect that number to go down, which is obviously huge. And they still won 12 games. He threw 2 interceptions over the last 11 games, I think, or 6 of the last 11, or whatever it may be. I don't expect anything like that out of Dak this time. This is a good quarterback still, so I'm expecting positive regression from Dak here. And then the offensive line, it's a weird unit. This is a top 10 unit when they're healthy. The problem is health and some young parts that have to move around and things like that. If Tyron Smith goes down, there's got a lot of shuffling gonna have to happen. I guess Tyler Smith moves to left tackle. Udoka comes in at left guard. Steele maybe a swing guard, maybe at right tackle. So it's a whole thing if Tyron Smith goes down, but when he's healthy, he's really good. So we'll see, but he's never really healthy that much, unfortunately. Tyler Smith, they'll hope he takes another step forward. He had a pretty decent year. And then, you have Zach Martin on the interior, who's just an incredible guard, and they'll hope that situation gets sorted quickly. You don't want that going crazy because he would like a little bit more money, and he's probably deserves it. Running back room, this is a weird one for me because I like Pollard, but I think this room is a bit of a concern. He's coming off a really big injury. Ronald Jones comes in behind him. It was okay, I suppose. They draft Deuce Vaughn, who's, highlight in college, but whether he can be that in the NFL or not is a different story. I wish there was another good veteran in that room besides Ronald Jones. As I said, Pollard's really good, and he should have had more carries and touches last year, and when it came down to it, before he got hurt, he was starting to get those touches when it mattered, so they think highly of him. We think highly of him. Coming off a really big injury, I wish there was another body there. Excuse me. Tight ends. Schultz leaves, but I think they're well equipped to deal with that. Hendershot's all right. Ferguson will probably just step in. They draft Schumacher, so I don't have a problem with this room. Whether any of them are as good as Schultz, I don't know, but they can make up for him. Wide receiver room. This room gets a little bit better as well. CeeDee Lamb, he draws a lot of different opinions. I'm of the opinion that if his hands were just a little bit better, there wouldn't be any talk about him. He's an excellent mover in space, really good after the catch. It's a really good wide receiver, and yes, he has those hands problems, but hopefully he can fix them. Evan Engram fixed them at some stage. Maybe CD can fix them, but he's the one. Then Gallup, he's kind of coming off an injury last year, so I think he can take a little step forward. Pretty decent. And then Brandon Cooks comes in, and Cooks is a good field stretcher and just a good player all around. Some decent depth. Turpin, Tolbert, they're depth guys really, and they're all or they're both kind of got their own neat quirks and stuff like that. So they're good, pretty good depth pieces. But overall, another step up here in the wide receiver room. And then defensive line, this is a really good group, especially at the edge. Of course, Micah Parsons should be there full time this year. Obviously an incredible talent. And then DeMarcus Lawrence is really good on the other side as well. The interior is where this line will take its step forward or take its steps back. Mozzie Smith gets drafted, a really good run defender, not a great pass rusher. And then his partner, Odejuzua, is the opposite, a really good pass or a decent pass rusher and not a good run defender. So if those two can even out their play a little bit and just step up all around a little bit, then this line's gonna really go places. Reminds me a lot of Cleveland, where if they can stop the run, the edge rushers are gonna wreak havoc. So I expect this line to take a jump if Mozzie Smith comes in and hits the ground running. Linebacker room, not much to say. These are the same players. Van Der Esch comes back. It's not expecting anything different here out of the linebacker room. And then the secondary. So the secondary, I like the secondary on paper. Lewis is pretty good at corner or at nickel. Then Gilmore comes in across from Diggs, which is a really good compliment, I feel like, and a really good step up there at the second corner. Who's the other safety? Yeah, Wilson. Wilson and Hooker are a good safety tandem. This is the problem here, is really thin. It's a thin secondary, and there are some injury-prone players here. Gilmore misses time. Sometimes Hooker misses time. This secondary is 1 or 2 injuries away from kind of falling apart a little bit. So I worry there, but the defensive line's really good. They're not going to have to cover as long, and Dan Quinn's really good at setting this defense up. So I expect the defense to be really good this year, and barring any major injuries, I expect it to be good all year round. So the roster is really good. I love the roster. I don't think the roster got worse anywhere, really. There's potential for it to, drop spots. We were talking about the secondary injury-wise. Tight end, maybe. Running back, if Pollard's not 100%, perhaps. But all around, the roster didn't really get worse anywhere. And there are spots that it got better, D-line, the wide receiver room. So potentially an excellent roster. But we can jump into the schedule. They start off with both New York teams at the Giants Sunday night to start the season off. Then they get the Jets at home, at Arizona, home to New England. There's a significant chance that this team is 4-0, 3-1 to start the season. As a Giants fan, I'm just assuming we're losing to the Cowboys both times. It's just how it happens. I really want to bet the Cowboys when they play the Jets. I'm expecting them to beat the Jets comfortably. We may get 2.5 there, maybe 2, if the Jets come off a big win to start the season versus the Bills. But I'm looking for that spot. And then right before the bye, at San Francisco and at the Chargers. This is 2 difficult games back to back on the West Coast. They'll probably stay out there, but the bye is well placed, not schedule wise necessarily, because you want a later bye when you're contending, but after those 2 West Coast games, it's a really good spot for the bye. Then we got Rams at Philly, Giants at Carolina, Washington, another stretch where they can win 4. I think they match up pretty well with the Eagles if they are healthy. And then their toughest stretch of the season, Seattle, Philadelphia, at Buffalo, at Miami, home to Detroit, and then they end at Washington. So that late stretch there, if we're looking for wins, trying to get over 9.5 could be problematic. But this is a team that could be, they could have 8 by that point before they even get into Seattle, theoretically. There's potential for that there, so we'll see there. But over 9.5 is where we have them. This is a good football team, a really good roster. Schedule first half sets up pretty nicely if we're going over the total here. Second half is tough, but they have nice stretches there. Washington, Seattle, Philadelphia, all at home in a row. So there are some good spots here in the schedule. Over 9.5 is where we're going at -154. And tomorrow we'll head into a new team.